What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, October 21st, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 17:33 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from overseas. So what you're looking at here is a screenshot from a flight tracker showing Russian doomsday planes and airborne command and control planes doing a massive exercise earlier this morning, some kind of massive doomsday plane exercise in Russia. And the planes that are highlighted here are just probably a third of all the planes that were part of the exercise, because you literally cannot fit more than 6 planes on this flight tracker. But you could see here, looks like probably well over a dozen Russian doomsday planes taking part in this exercise earlier this morning. Now, also, Russia is in the middle of massive nuclear war exercises that are lasting this entire week and through early next week. They're supposed to be test launching some of their submarine-launched ballistic missiles. They're also going to be test launching from their transporter erector launchers and or silos as well. And they're also going to be test launching from bombers. So all 3 legs of Russia's nuclear triad, air, land, and sea, will be launching missiles during this nuclear exercise, okay? Now, in addition to Russia, NATO is in the middle of nuclear war exercises. So both Russia and NATO are doing nuclear war exercises. We have well over a dozen Russian doomsday planes doing some kind of exercise this morning. And last night and early this morning, we heard more Russian high-priority nuclear codes transmitted, and they were getting very, very strong. The signal was becoming very strong as time went on, as we got further and further into the morning hours, and they were becoming more frequent. Here you can see one of these really strong Russian nuclear codes, and it's so strong that it's a bright red on the waterfall of this software-defined radio. Listen. So from what I understand, these codes are going out to Russia's nuclear-armed submarines. These are high-priority codes, okay? And this afternoon, we had 2 U.S. B-52 bombers over Louisiana, and we also had a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane looping over Norfolk Naval Base area for some time, which is very unusual because these planes typically loop over water. They send out signals to the submerged nuclear-armed submarines through VLF. And for one of these to be looping over land for such a long period of time is very, very unusual. Right over Norfolk. Here's a closer look. Okay. Also, last night we had several U.S. aerial refuelers go overseas to Europe, and 2 of them are associated with bombers. Here you can see one of them, Blue 62, heading towards the bomber base in Spain, Meran Air Base, and Rota, used by the U.S. for B-52s, B-1s, B-2s. Okay, and then also we had for the 4th night in a row, a U.S. sub-hunter fly up to Russia's northern fleet area near Murmansk, near the Kola Peninsula. So the U.S. is keeping a close eye on Russia's nuclear-armed submarines for the last couple of days. Very, very concerning. And we have some breaking news coming in just in the last few hours. The airport in Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania, has been closed due to unauthorized weather balloons. And according to an advisor to the Prime Minister of a U.S. allied nation and one diplomatic source, apparently allied countries have been briefed about a possible upcoming escalation in the Caribbean. Okay, so it looks like Trump is going to make his move on Venezuela very, very soon. And I've showed you guys last week and the week before the preparations that Venezuela has been making. They've called up their National Guard. They've been deploying troops to the beaches along the Caribbean. They've been putting up anti-tank obstacles on one of their main highways in Caracas. And we also are hearing that Russian nuclear missiles are in Venezuela, that they're tucked into the mountains near Caracas. They have these tunnels that have been drilled into the side of the mountains, and that's where transporter erector launchers are parked that have nuclear warheads on them, and they can use those to strike the U.S., okay? And last night we had the heaviest cargo plane in the U.S. military go overseas to Europe. This is pretty interesting. I wonder what they're moving over there. And we also had a nuke sniffer airborne with its tracker turned off. These planes can detect radiation in the atmosphere. And then here we have a U.S. nuclear-armed submarine that was deployed from the Puget Sound area near Bangor Kitsap. This picture was taken, as you can see, near the tower there in Seattle. Okay, this sub was stationed at Bangor Kitsap, which is where most of our nuclear-armed submarines are stationed. And I don't know if this is part of a normal rotation or if this is an extra submarine that we have now deployed due to heightened tensions. Okay, typically they keep half of our subs in port and then the other half are out on patrol, and they rotate them every 6 months or so. Okay, so I don't know if this is just part of a normal rotation or if we are deploying an extra sub because of tensions in Europe. Here you can see all those aerial refuelers going overseas last night. Here you can see another one of those aerial refuelers with the call sign blue. This one was blue 51, and any of those refuelers with the call sign blue are refuelers used by bombers and fighter jets, okay? And we have some major breaking news coming in. Apparently the meeting between Trump and Putin in Hungary has been canceled because Rubio, after a conversation with Lavrov, stated that the summit is unlikely to yield positive results in peace negotiations. This was reported by the Wall Street Journal, citing sources in the White House. Okay, so the meeting in Hungary has been canceled, okay? And the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that discussions of a ceasefire along any lines is premature, as the root causes of the war have still not been addressed. He also added that this would go against the terms that were agreed to during the Alaska conference. Okay, so Trump said he wants the lines to be frozen where they are, and now Russia is saying, well, we don't agree with that. We want all of the Donbass. We don't want to freeze the lines where they are. That's against our interests, you know. So Russia is not interested in Trump's proposal, basically. And Zelensky and European leaders issued a joint statement today saying that Ukraine is ready to stop hostilities along the current front line. The current line of contact should become the starting point for negotiations. So Ukraine is willing to pause the fighting along the current front lines, but Russia is not. Russia wants all of the Donbass still, okay? And the Trump administration official told CNN on Tuesday there were no plans for a summit between Putin and Trump in the near future. So that's just confirming that this meeting is not going to happen. Okay. A source familiar with the matter told CNN that officials felt afterward that the Russian position had not evolved enough beyond its maximalist stance, and there was a sense that Rubio was not likely to recommend moving forward on a Trump-Putin meeting next week, the source said Monday. Okay, so more indications that this meeting has been canceled, but we have heard from the Wall Street Journal, who cited sources in the White House, that the meeting has been canceled. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life. And it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from NYPrepper Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video. And the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Tuesday that the summit cannot be postponed because no date was ever set. He said, "You cannot postpone what has not been scheduled," he told reporters. Interesting. And the NATO Secretary General will be traveling to Washington today and tomorrow to meet with Trump and to discuss the situation in Ukraine. And the General Staff of Ukraine confirmed that the Ukrainian Defense Forces struck the Bryansk chemical plant in Russia with Storm Shadow missiles. The Bryansk chemical plant is an important part of Russia's military-industrial complex. The facility produces gunpowder, explosives, and components for rocket fuel, including for munitions and missiles. Okay, so very, very interesting. The Ukrainians using Storm Shadow missiles to strike deep into Russia, hitting a gunpowder factory in Bryansk. Okay, I'm sure Russia's not going to be happy about that. And Australia formally protested China's unsafe and unprofessional military maneuvers after a Chinese Sukhoi 35 fighter jet released flares near a Royal Australian Air Force P-8 Poseidon sub-hunter over the South China Sea. The incident occurred on Sunday, October 19th, during a routine surveillance mission conducted by the Australian plane in international airspace. Wow. So an Australian sub-hunter in the South China Sea in international airspace was basically harassed by a Chinese Sukhoi 35 that buzzed around it and deployed flares. Wow. And Ukraine's parliament has extended their state of emergency due to the war until February of 2026. And we're hearing that the Russians struck power infrastructure in the Chernihiv region of Ukraine, in northern Ukraine, with drones and 2 Iskander ballistic missiles last night. We're also hearing that the Ukrainians struck the Smolensk thermal power plant in Smolensk, Russia. That's in western Russia, close to Belarus. Apparently, there's now smoke visible after the explosions were heard, and there's a huge fire burning, and the whole city of Smolensk is without power. Okay, so the fighting is continuing. We're also hearing that an explosion occurred on the Pskov-St. Petersburg Railway in Russia, which is used for the Russian army's military logistics. And Norway and Sweden will be participating in NATO's Steadfast Noon nuclear exercises, which started last week. Okay, so Norway and Sweden, these are countries that are not part of NATO's nuclear mission, will be participating in these nuclear exercises. Okay, so does that mean that Norway and Sweden will become nuclear countries in NATO? Very possible. And we're hearing that due to the government shutdown, 1,400 personnel responsible for securing the U.S. nuclear arsenal have been sent home. So if you guys are not aware, there's an agency called the U.S. National Nuclear Security Agency. And that agency has people responsible for keeping all of our warheads in their custody to ensure that there's no missing nukes. Okay, and so all those personnel, or most of them, have been sent home. And we're hearing that the U.S. has redeployed B-1 strategic bombers with the 7th Bomb Wing in Dyess Air Force Base in Texas to MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, which is interesting because, Florida is closer to Venezuela and the Caribbean. So we have now moved B-1s closer to the Caribbean. Okay, clearly a sign that the U.S. is going to be attacking Venezuela soon. And when that happens, I will be covering the situation live 24/7 if I have to. Okay, I've done this many times before. I'm no stranger to covering live world events. So make sure you're set up with the notifications here on YouTube. Make sure you're following me on X. I post a lot on X now throughout the day. Also follow me on Patreon and download my app. So this way you can get alerts from me, and it's not reliant on any platform other than Google Play Store. Okay. And the Iranian supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, on Monday rejected an offer of renewed talks from the U.S. president and denied his assertion that the U.S. has destroyed Iran's nuclear capabilities. Wow. Okay, so the Ayatollah Khamenei rejecting renewed talks about their nuclear program. Very concerning. And also we're hearing that there's new construction at the Iranian Talagan nuclear site 1 year after an Israeli airstrike on this site destroyed it. Recent satellite imagery reveals fresh construction activity at Iran's Talagan facility, a former nuclear site long suspected of involvement in atomic weapons development 2 decades ago. So here's that satellite picture, okay? And Zelensky called his meeting with Trump a success, even though he didn't get Tomahawks, saying it advanced talks on air defense systems. Okay, so we're hearing that Zelensky's about to sign a deal to purchase 25 Patriot batteries, which is a massive amount. That's like 20 or 30 billion dollars worth of Patriot systems. And Japan elected a female prime minister for the first time ever, and she favors a stronger military and is considered a conservative leader. And a major road connecting the 3 Baltic countries to Poland opened on Monday at a time of rising tensions between Europe and Russia. The road, known as Via Baltica, will pass through a narrow strip of land between Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad exclave called the Suwałki Gap, which has often been described as a potential target if Russia were to attack NATO. Polish President Karol Nawrocki and Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda, at an inauguration ceremony on the border between their countries, said the road was the region's most important corridor and highlighted its role in the region's defense. NATO troops could potentially move faster in the aid of the Baltics by using the Via Baltica. This road has a dual purpose. It will help our economy and strengthen the defense capabilities of our region, Nawrocki said on Monday. So this is huge news. I'm sure Russia's not going to like that, but major, major breaking news. We're also hearing that the British military will now be getting legal power to shoot down drones over military bases. And Ukraine's main intelligence directorate says Russia is preparing for an active winter military campaign to seize more land. Very, very interesting. And in Moscow, a Russian national was accused of high treason for passing data to Ukraine on the locations of Russian air defense systems and military facilities. And the UK and leading EU countries are using all tools against Russia, including the organization of terrorist operations, according to Sergei Narishkin, the director of the Foreign Intelligence Service of Russia. Wow. So they're blaming the UK and EU countries of basically attacking Russia with terrorism. That's a strong allegation. And Canada has postponed their purchase of 88 F-35s and is now considering Swedish Gripen fighter jets instead. And a 26-year-old Latvian citizen gained access to critical infrastructure in Warsaw. He has been arrested and faces serious charges. And Poland is testing a new unmanned maritime vessel called Storm Rider, which is armed with 50 caliber machine guns and tube-launched loitering kamikaze drones. It also has a radar, sonar, and various optoelectronics. Okay, so this thing is a monster. But that's the latest breaking news that I have, guys. Make sure you download my app from the Google Play Store. The link is in the description down below. This lets me send out notifications to you guys directly when there's breaking news and when I go live. Also, follow me on X. I post updates there throughout the day. My X handle is at NYPrepper1. And I will be back later on tonight with a live update and live monitoring. Probably around 11 p.m., maybe sooner, maybe later. I'll let you guys know, so make sure you're following me on Twitter, Telegram, or if you have my app, I'll let you know over there. And until later on, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere. And this video was sponsored by Just In Case Holsters. Guys, you need to get yourself a high-quality holster for your personal defense weapon. And the company I recommend for high-quality leather holsters is Just In Case Holsters. Now, these holsters are made in the USA by a veteran. And the holster that I really love for carrying a firearm in the woods is the Kodiak chest holster. I have one of these for my .357 Magnum. And the leather is really thick, really heavy duty, really beautiful, holds the firearm nicely, and you can draw the weapon very quickly, which is important in a personal defense situation. Now, he has a whole variety of holsters, not just these open carry chest holsters, but if you want to browse around their website, use the link in the description. It's justincaseholsters.com, and I have a special promo code that's going to give you 10% off of all of their products on their website, and the promo code is NYPrepper, and that's also in the description. So justincaseholsters.com, use the promo code NYPrepper to get 10% off of any leather products on their website.